We're joined by Climate Change Minister Greg Combet. Welcome.
Thanks, Chris.
Is this Labor's bill or the Greens?
Oh, this is a Labor reform in strong Labor tradition. I mean, this is economically responsible, it's going to be environmentally effective, and importantly, it's socially fair. 9 out of 10 households will receive assistance through tax cuts or pension increases or increases in other Commonwealth payments, and this is a very important reform.
But would you have done it all if the Greens hadn't been snapping at your heels? This wasn't what you took to the election.
Well, it's amazing how short memories are, isn't it? I mean, for a start, over many things I've been involved in, when you're successful with something, there's certainly a lot of people who claim authorship. That's fine. But remember, it was only the last term of Parliament where the Labor Party in government was trying to prosecute this reform, an emissions trading scheme we called the Carbon Pollution Reduction Scheme. The Greens and the opposition voted against it. On this occasion, the government's been able to get it through Parliament.
But the Greens say that that was a vastly different bill. You're saying this is not?
Well, consider some of the things that they voted against on the last occasion in the CPRS. There are some remarkable similarities with what's contained in the Clean Energy Future Package. For example, the support for emissions-intensive trade-exposed businesses or coal-fired generators, and I'm not criticising them for that, but this is a policy that Labor has fundamentally designed.
Will it cut Australia's greenhouse gas emissions?
Yes, it will, and the minimum amount of emissions reductions achieved in the year 2020 will be 160 million tonnes.
In Australia? In
Australia, that's correct, but of course this is also Australia playing its fair share, a part, which is its responsibility in the international community. But that's the minimum emissions reductions that will be achieved in the year 2020.
In Australia. But a vast bulk of what's going to be happening will be bought via offshore permits through trading with others.
Well, some of it is, and one of the important things when you're considering a policy of this nature is to achieve the emissions reductions in our economy at the lowest cost. And that means that we want to link our emissions trading scheme, when a flexible price starts in 2015, with other carbon markets internationally. And it means that Australian businesses can purchase international credits, if you like, on the international carbon markets. That allows them access to low-cost abatement, and it means that we achieve the emissions reductions in our economy at lowest cost. And that's very important from an economic point of view.
For this to work at all, the rest of the world has to move, and Canada's Foreign Minister told this program just a fortnight ago that there will never be an economy-wide carbon price there or in the United States.
Well, that's a big statement, and of course the Canadian...
Well, he should know, he's the Foreign Minister.
Well, the current Canadian government, of course, doesn't support carbon pricing, but notwithstanding that, it's going on in a number of provinces within Canada, and I just read some comments made by the US Ambassador this evening, of course, about the cap and trade emissions trading scheme that's kicking off in California, the 8th largest economy in the world, next year. And of course Ambassador Bosch was making the point that there's a lot of work going on in the US, albeit that there's gridlock on Capitol Hill in Washington for action at a federal level. And there's action going on in many countries. This argument that Australia's on its own, of course, is a complete furphy.
You're giving up a benefit that Australia's had for a long time, which is cheap access to electricity. Is it going to be worth it?
Well, we're not doing that at all. Of course, the modelled
coal is the cheapest electricity we can get.
Well, the modelled increase in electricity prices is in fact quite modest when you consider that we've had a 40% increase in electricity prices over the last 3 years. It's forecast to go up again by around 30% on average across the country in the next 3 years. In New South Wales this year alone, it's going up by 18%. Carbon pricing is not going to have anywhere near those impacts. Electricity price increases in this country are being driven by the huge infrastructure investments that are being made in the poles and wires in particular.
Well, certainly they are, but this will add to it.
Well, a modest amount in our economy, but already with the carbon price legislation being through the House of Reps and just prior to it going through the Senate today, True Energy has committed over $3 billion to the construction of 2 new gas-fired electricity generators in Queensland. These are investment decisions that are being taken now for assets that will last for decades but produce far less pollution than coal-fired electricity for many, many years, and that's the sort of thing a carbon price will achieve.
When you began this debate in 2006, 2007, the community was broadly behind you. Now it appears to be broadly against you. How do you win them back?
Well, the first thing is, with the reforms going through the Parliament today, the Clean Energy Package, this is economically responsible and it'll drive innovation and productivity in the economy. It'll be environmentally effective, cutting pollution and driving investment in clean energy sources, and it's socially fair. And the government will continue to make the case for those three elements of this package to the community in coming weeks and months. And I think as it's introduced from the middle of next year, and people have the lived experience and the sky doesn't fall in, the sun comes up the next day, people will recognise this as a manageable reform which has positive merits for our country.
We've seen a modest improvement in the polls of the government. Do you get the sense that the government is beginning to make a bit of a comeback?
Oh, look, I think Tony Abbott's getting himself into trouble. He's been catching a lot of attention over the last 12 months, making stupid populist claims that have got him a fair bit of media play. But at the end of the day, what's going on here? The government is delivering on things. We're making major reforms. We're doing the business of government. We're acting in the national interest. You can hardly accuse us of being run by opinion polls. We're doing what we believe to be right. We're standing up for the things we believe in. And I think as we continue to record achievements in important reforms, people will respect that we are doing that and standing up for our beliefs and the national interest.
Greg Combet, we'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Chris.